Good morning, I'm Wendy Burke and this is the CBC Morning Report for Wednesday, October 13th. In our top story, Barbados has a new record in its daily number of COVID-19 cases, 342. The new positive cases were detected among the 2,781 tests conducted by the Bestos Santos Public Health Laboratory on Monday. Of these new cases, they included 164 males and 178 females. Of these, 82 are under the age of 18. There are now 537 individuals in isolation facilities and 2,284 in home isolation. In terms of vaccinations, 142,623 people have received first doses, while a total of 113,022 are fully vaccinated. Police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the discovery of a body. It was around 11 a.m. yesterday that residents of Kendall Hill B, Christchurch, reported the scent of a pungent odor in an open area. It was there that the decomposing body was discovered. Up to news time, the identity of the deceased was not known. The Food and Agricultural Organization has done a survey on Barbados's food imports and realized that 64% of them are processed and create a huge public health burden. Sub-Regional Coordinator for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Dr. Renata Clark, told Morning Report that food consumption and waste is a matter of individual responsibility, and we're now trying to fix the problem of non-communicable diseases.
The theme for World Food Day, it's transforming agri-food systems for better production, better nutrition, better environments, and better lives. And here, it's not some remote responsibility that somebody else, somewhere else needs to deal with. For every single person, their food choices are a powerful contribution to transformation of agri-food systems. We did a study here in a few countries of the Caribbean looking at food imports. And, it shows that about 64% of Barbados's food imports are highly processed or with high levels of salt or sugar. At a time when non-communicable diseases are a huge public health burden. So already our food choices enable us to be more healthy, enable the country, instead of spending money to fix problems that should have been avoided, and spending money on things that can make the economy stronger, we're fixing problems that should never have been created. This is individual choice. Individual choice also from the point of view of food waste. SDG 12 is about sustainable consumption and production, and one of the targets is about food waste. Here again, and we're talking about food waste at the level of retail and the level of consumers. And the global target is that we can halve food waste by 2030. This is in our power, you, me, and every single listener.
World Food Day is officially on Saturday, but Dr. Clark says while the pandemic prevents face-to-face activities, they still have celebrations.
It is going to be a celebration of or let's say we're celebrating with our boots on and our sleeves up. We want to be helping countries push their agenda forward. So this is our focus. Having said that, food security has been catapulted so much into public view that ministries of agriculture around the region, and this FAO office based in Barbados covers more than Barbados. We cover also the countries of the Eastern Caribbean states, and they are all organizing World Food Day events and have invited our office to join. It has been a traumatic 2 years, but the achievements have been incredible. And I'm going to be honored to be joining the platforms of many of these national dialogues over the next few days.
Next on CBC Morning Report, updates on the COVID-19 pandemic. The immunization unit has advised that first doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine are only being offered to students at present. Joint Coordinator of the National Vaccination Program for COVID-19, Major David Clark, explained there were only about 1,000 doses of the Pfizer left, and these would be offered to students aged 12 to 18 until the supplies were exhausted. People who received first doses of the Pfizer are assured there are enough second doses remaining to complete the regime. Adults can access the AstraZeneca and Sinopharm vaccines at any of the vaccination sites. A report by members of Parliament says the UK's failure to do more to stop COVID spreading early in the pandemic was one of the country's worst public health failures. The government approach, backed by its scientists, was to try to manage the situation and, in effect, achieve herd immunity by infection. This led to a delay in introducing the first lockdown, causing thousands of lives. However, their report highlighted successes too, including the vaccination rollout.
MPs from across the political spectrum have delivered a damning verdict on the government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the words of a parliamentary report, it was one of the worst public health failures in UK history. It left vulnerable groups exposed and led to one of the worst outcomes among developed world economies.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
Boris Johnson's delay in ordering the first lockdown in March 2020, the report says, cost many lives. It was part of a deliberate policy based on scientific advice aimed at achieving herd immunity, something the government has always denied. And a so-called groupthink among ministers and government scientists, the report says, led to a failure to learn lessons from what other countries were doing.
We took too long to make that decision. I think everyone recognises that now. We should have been able to avoid a lockdown altogether if we'd followed the model taken in Taiwan or South Korea with a much expanded test and trace program right from the outset. We could have avoided locking down in that first year as those countries did. So that is a big lesson.
Despite being one of the first countries to develop a test for COVID-19 in January 2020, the report says the UK squandered that lead, turning it into a situation of permanent crisis when mass testing was halted in March. By the time a test, trace and isolate system did come along in the summer, it was, say MPs, slow, uncertain, often chaotic. There are moments of praise for the vaccine rollout and the development of life-saving treatments, both involving scientists from Oxford University. But that does not exonerate the government or its advisers for a litany of criticisms set out in what is an almost universally scathing report. Lobby Akinola lost his dad Femi to COVID-19 in April last year. He wants an apology.
This moment here isn't about politics, it's not about saving face. It's about understanding the pain that people are going through and doing what we can to ameliorate that and then prevent it from happening again. And I think you can convey all of that in two simple words of I'm sorry. So the decision to not do that, I think, sends a different and unfortunate message quite loudly.
The National COVID Memorial Wall opposite Parliament bears vivid testimony to the pandemic, and Parliament has now laid bare the extent of government responsibility for those losses. A public inquiry is due in 2022.
Brooklyn Nets NBA star Kyrie Irving will not take part in team games or training until he gets vaccinated against COVID-19. The Nets are rejecting a proposal to allow him to play part-time in order to skirt regulations in New York.
Due to coronavirus restrictions in New York, the Nets players must have had at least one jab to be allowed to play their home games. Irving was cleared to train at their home facility as it's considered a private building, and he is eligible for some away games. But the Nets want Irving fully involved, so until he gets the jab or rules in New York change, he isn't allowed to take part in any team activities. So for more on this, we're now joined by NBA broadcaster Brandon Robinson in Washington. Brandon, thank you for joining us. Can I just first get your reaction to this decision?
Thank you for having me. I wasn't really surprised with everything going on in New York City, as well as just the Nets and their quest to potentially win a championship. Those that I've spoke with simply feel as though they want to be on one accord. And Kyrie Irving has not been vaccinated, having one shot or both. And they don't really want a part-time player. Their GM, Sean Marks, issuing a statement today, and here we are now.
Do you think it's fair for the Nets to take this stance?
It's their prerogative from my perspective. 95% of the NBA is vaccinated, as reported by multiple outlets. So, the Nets are moving in this way. It's a week before the season begins, and their big three of James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, are expected to make it to the big dance in the championship. So I wasn't really surprised. It's their prerogative. It's a business, and some feel as though he needs to conform to that.
And how do you expect Kyrie will react to this decision? Do you think this is going to force him to get the jab, or do you think he'll stand firm?
Well, I've covered Kyrie since 2013 when he was a member of the Cavaliers. I have a lot of mutual friends and family, and we know each other as well. So knowing Kyrie and the type of person he is, particularly as it relates to not necessarily subscribing to groupthink and moving to the beat of his own drum and really analyzing things and not jumping to something just because everybody else is doing it. My gut says no. But I also think that what happens with Mayor de Blasio, as well as Kyrie and the Nets and everything going on with the mandates could dictate a change. So from my perspective, in covering Kyrie and knowing the type of person he is, and I say no.
It's time now for a preview of what's coming up on Morning Barbados. And for that, we say good morning to Pearson Gerard Bowen.
Gerard, it is today. Thank you, Wendy Gwendolyn Burke. Gwenny, it will be for you today. Good to have you company. Good morning, everyone. Coming up at 6:30 this morning, we'll be looking at the Operation Safe Space. They're having now a new advocacy training program. What is that program about? And what is the training to achieve? We'll certainly get answers to those questions a little later on. Also, Friday, there's going to be a public lecture on eye care. That's because tomorrow is World Sight Day. And ahead of all of that, Dr. Dawn Grosvenor, who will be doing the lecture, will be joining us to look at some of the common conditions affecting our eyes of Barbadians. And so we want to hear her take on that as well. But we'll also today meet a woman who one day took the wrong turn and stared death in its face and has lived to tell the tale. She'll talk that story through with us right here on Morning Barbados when we start at 6:30. It's back to you, Gwenny. Wendy.
Why, thank you, Gerard. Gerard and Gwendolyn. That sounds quite nice, actually.
Nice.
Yes, it does. Why, thank you, Pearson. We'll see you in a bit. We'll take another break and return with more news. Another effort is underway to stamp out corruption in Barbados. The amended Prevention of Corruption Act was brought back to Parliament yesterday after failing to get support in the Senate last year. Senators were not in favor of the exclusion of judges from scrutiny and possible prosecution. In reintroducing the bill, Attorney General Dale Marshall said government had committed in its manifesto to rooting out corruption as it's a stain on society. He says a suite of legislation will put Barbados in a good position going forward to address acts of corruption. He believes the wider range of fines and imprisonment terms will act as a deterrent.
I have no difficulty in saying to the world, really, that Barbados adopts as part of its law the UN Convention on Corruption. It is at this point, it is the most thorough, the most comprehensive global treaty that deals with the issue of corruption, and it is commended very, very highly by the Commonwealth Secretariat. So, Mr. Speaker, there's work to be done. We are passing the law today. It will go to the Senate very shortly, and I expect that they will pass it. But once this is finished, we have to embrace the other pieces of legislation that are going to be required to complete the suite. And then that is when the hard work begins, Mr. Speaker.
The results of this year's Caribbean Examination Council exams will be released online to students on Friday. This was revealed in a statement from the CXC. Ahead of that, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana will host a release of results ceremony tomorrow. Guyana's Education Minister, Dr. Priya Manik-Chan, will deliver the feature address, while CXC CEO and Registrar, Dr. Wayne Wesley, will offer remarks. Representatives from ministries of education across the region, principals and students will also hear a report on the administration of this year's examinations and highlights of the regional performance outlook. This year's exams took place between the months of June and August due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sea bathers using Worthing Beach, Christchurch, are being assured the discoloration of nearshore water does not pose a health risk. A statement from the Government Information Service says there will be occasional discoloration when excess water from the Graham Hall swamp needs to be discharged into the sea via the sluice gate. It explains that the discoloration is caused by tannins or brown pigment residue from the mangrove trees typically found in the swamp. According to the news release, the drainage channel is responsible for maintaining a delicate freshwater salinity balance between the sea and the mangrove forest. The statement says this natural balance assists in maintaining brackish water and fish populations, as well as controlling the mosquito population and invasive species of lilies and algae. Over in Jamaica, the opposition People's National Party has taken aim at what it calls the government's inadequate management of crime. Several party officials, including opposition leader Mark Golding, visited the grieving family of a 5-year-old girl killed by a stray bullet last week.
On Thursday, the New Haven community was torn by the death of 5-year-old Denique Salmon. She was shot in the head by a stray bullet that was exchanged during a shootout by rivaling gang factions. On Sunday, PNP President Mark Golding and other party officials visited with Denique's family as a show of support and solidarity during their difficult time.
Tragic situation, all too frequent. Yet another child innocently killed, in this instance on her bed. The shot flew through 4 different zinc fences before it flew through the board wall and through her.
Golding used the opportunity to highlight what he calls an inadequate management of crime by the government.
Clearly they have no clue about how to manage the situation of crime in the country. You know, under their watch, the situation has gotten much, much worse.
Shadow Minister on National Security Peter Bunting sees a need for more on-the-ground social management in communities across the island. He, too, is calling out the government.
When you come into communities like New Haven, you see the consequences of a lack of social investment in these communities. I have been calling, and the opposition has been calling for a long time, that we need some balance in the approach to combating crime.
Denique's mother wondered aloud how differently Thursday night would have played out if she didn't have to move Denique.
People tell myself to stop blame myself, but I don't know how for not blame myself. Probably if it wasn't that the community flood that often and we're in the hurricane season, my bed wouldn't have been so high because we have to be icing the stuff them from the flood. Probably if it wasn't for that, my bed would be low and the baby, she wouldn't get shot.
The police say they continue to follow strong leads as they hope to bring the perpetrators to justice.
The European Union has pledged a €1 billion aid package for Afghanistan to avert what it's calling a major humanitarian and socio-economic collapse.
Thousands of kilometers away from Afghanistan, the political negotiations go on. Following their talks with the Americans, the Taliban delegation met European representatives in Qatar's capital, Doha. Afghanistan on the agenda too at this virtual G20 meeting. Led by Italy, Prime Minister Mario Draghi warned of a humanitarian disaster.
The humanitarian emergency that is unfolding is very serious. Many people and representatives of international organizations and the United Nations have talked of humanitarian catastrophe. And they have noted that with the onset of winter, the situation will get worse.
In Kabul, hardly anyone has any money.
Since the arrival of the Islamic Emirates, I believe that all our colleagues have been unemployed. Meanwhile, our salaries have not been paid by the government. Therefore, my request to the government of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan is to pay us our salaries first, because the people live in poverty.
Unpaid salaries, no jobs, a country that has a severe cash flow problem, hugely dependent on billions of dollars of international aid that is now being withheld. And there's a growing security problem too, with ISIL in Afghanistan increasing its attacks. We met the man in charge of Kabul security. He says the Taliban is more than capable of handling the ISIL threat.
If ISIL is a threat to Afghanistan, it will also be a threat to the neighboring countries. Taliban have promised the world that they will not let the terrorist groups use Afghanistan as a base for launching attacks. As I can see in the past 20 days, Taliban damaged ISIL capabilities with our security operations against them.
But ISIL in Afghanistan has managed to carry out deadly attacks, including here in Kabul. Preventing armed groups like it from gaining ground here and using it to attack other countries was one of the top points of last year's Doha agreement between the US and the Taliban.
Despite engaging in dialogue with the Taliban, the international community has made it very clear that this does not mean an official recognition of the Taliban as Afghanistan's government. That's dependent on things like an all-inclusive government and protecting the rights of women. And as that back and forth continues, billions of much-needed dollars are being withheld abroad, and that's having a devastating impact on the people here.
Lego, the world's largest toy maker, has pledged to eliminate gender stereotypes from its products, including labeling that marks toys as for girls or for boys as part of a bid to match the wishes of its young customers.
The world's largest toy maker says it will no longer target different products at girls and boys, ending years of gender-based marketing. The Danish company says it made the decision after a survey found parents and children are still influenced by what it called ingrained gender stereotypes.
We could never assume that something is just for boys or something is just for girls. I think we should not be making those assumptions. I think we should continue to develop products that are tapping into the passion points of kids and then play patterns that they really like and the building patterns that they really like. But we need to let them decide.
Madeline Denono is the President and Chief Executive Officer at the Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media. That's the organisation that conducted the global survey on behalf of Lego. Thanks for joining us, Madeline. How big of a role do toys play in creating and perpetuating these gender stereotypes?
Thank you so much, Emily, for having me. Toys are one of the first things that children engage in addition to traditional popular culture that they may watch. And it is definitely introducing them to potential pathways into work or aspirations about creativity. So it has a tremendous amount of influence.
And Madeline, how much have these ingrained stereotypes that we talk about, how much have they held back children, both boys and girls?
Well, what we found is that, and this was heartening to find that, 82% of girls are ready and believe that, sure, I can play football and sure, boys can do ballet, but we found that 74% of the boys were actually like, no, there's some things that are just for girls. And
in sports, with the ICC T20 World Cup around the corner, several Windies players seem to be in good form, as shown from their stats in the second half of their IPL regular season, which concluded over the weekend. CBC's Melissa Farley reviews their stats and notes there are a couple players who still need to find form ahead of the World Cup.
All-rounder Jason Holder has played 8 matches for Sunrisers.
Time now for a look at our weather picture. In Barbados right now, it's 27.5 degrees Celsius, and outside it's partly cloudy with some haze, but it feels like 34%. The humidity stands at 82% and the barometric pressure 1011.9 millibars. The winds are from the east at 24 kilometers per hour. Low tide is at 3:46 p.m. and high tide at 10:46 a.m. The next high tide will be at 9:35 p.m. The seas are moderate and open water with swells ranging from 1.5 to 2.5 meters and steady. Small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise caution. Our forecast today, a mix of sunshine and clouds with a few brief light isolated showers. Mix of clear skies and clouds with a few brief isolated light showers into tonight. In the Lesser Antilles, today and tonight, it will be partly cloudy to occasionally cloudy with a few brief scattered light showers. Here's now a look at our international cities. That was today's morning report. Our next newscast will be on CBC TV 8 at noon. We now join Pearson Gerard Bowen and Morning Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning.
Indeed, morning to you. Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, the 13th of October, 2021. I am Pearson Bowen, welcoming you today, and welcoming all of you watching us here in Barbados via your TV screens or across the globe on our social media platforms, be it YouTube or our Facebook stream. Remember to like our page, Mornin Barbados on Facebook. That's where we post a lot of stuff, so you can see everything right there. Today, we're continuing to ask you to spot the pink ribbon. Remember to keep watching all morning long. I don't know myself when it's going to pop up, but when it does, you identify the landmark for today, Wednesday, the 13th of October, and stand by to submit all of your entries at the end of the week. That's one thing we're doing today. Last week, we started looking at self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness. And if you're struggling with your own emotions and thoughts, you may need to adjust your emotional agility. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that with Joan Underwood as we continue to delve into our manager's first aid kit. In this instance, manager does not mean the person who sits at the top of the organization. You manage yourself, you manage your home. And how do you manage your emotions? We're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. Our urologist will come by to take a look at menopause. What is it? What are the symptoms? What are the treatments? And Brittany Seeley will be by today as well, because if you're struggling with loving your job, you might want to consider a career change. What are some of the things you need to manage as you work that process through? But let's get started this morning by looking at Operation Safe Space and their upcoming advocacy training program. Joining us to talk a little bit more about that is Dr. Gabrielle Hossein, who is the head of department and lecturer with UWI St. Augustine, and Marcia Hines, Dr. Marcia Hines, who is herself a certified expert advocate. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'll start with you, Dr. Hines. What is an advocate?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning again. An advocate is a facilitator who walks a woman who is affected by some case of intimate partner violence, sexual violence, something that disrupts her life through the process of getting her life back on an even keel. So one of the most important functions of an advocate is to assist women with making the reports that they need to make to the police. Sometimes they need medical attention. And you're doing it at a time when you're emotionally, volatile. And so the advocate assists in that process and all the bits that have to go together to move that woman past that crisis.
Because it has to be tough. She finds herself in a domestic violence situation. She finds herself in conditions that are not happy. And so she wants to be able to move to the next stage, to reach some resolution, to get some support. And oftentimes, because of her own emotional struggle, she can't quite articulate it in the way that she needs to articulate it. And thus, the advocate steps in to assist. Now, why is this training so critical? Because we're going through a pandemic, you know, so why is this training so critical?
That is exactly why it's critical, because across the world, we have seen an increase in domestic violence and intimate partner violence and sexual violence because of the pandemic. You know that United Nations has designated the issues around gender-based violence as the pandemic within the pandemic with respect to what we're going through with COVID. We haven't had training for advocates in Barbados for some time, for a very long time. And so we need to be able to provide the skills, because it's a technical task. And so we want to make sure that the women who are supporting other women in that way have all the tools and skills that they need.
Dr. Hossein, as well, I know from Trinidad, that's where you are. You two yourselves there in Trinidad face these situations oftentimes, and you're struggling with protecting women from domestic violence. Can you share for us some of your experiences and some of what you're hearing there, what you guys are doing in Trinidad?
Absolutely. Good morning to your viewers in Barbados. It is lovely to be in communication across the seas. We are working on so many things in Trinidad and Tobago, not only improving the services that are available to women, but improving the outcomes. You know, that is, what happens when a woman seeks a protection order? Does she really feel protected? What happens when a woman makes a report to the police? Is it properly followed up? And then following that, you know, is she actually safer? I know that organizations such as Coalition Against Domestic Violence have been looking at case management. That is, at what points is a case of a woman not sufficiently followed up, leading to greater danger, leading even to death. And so there is a lot of work done on how we can not only better protect victims, but empower women in those circumstances to get the kinds of services they deserve. And just to say that the private sector in Trinidad and Tobago has also been taking lead in creating a domestic violence in the workplace policy, so that employers, small ones or even big corporations, can set policies and set protocols for what to do when women who are in their workforce and amongst their co-workers and employees are experiencing violence.
And Dr. Hines, no doubt we're moving in that direction too here in Barbados, because, and especially now with the advocacy training program that you're engaging, it's another step in towards being able to make that significant difference. So talk to me now about how one can be a part of the advocacy training program.
We had put out a call for the advocacy training on our Facebook and our social media. OSS 246 is our group on Instagram and Facebook. And so we had a full cohort. We actually had 42 people who applied to do the training. And because of our COVID reality and that kind of thing, we had to whittle that away to the numbers that we needed to be able to maintain, you know, our social distance and be safe in what we're doing and so on and so forth. But we will run other cohorts, because one of the things, especially that Dr. Hossein is helping us to do, is to be able to look at the overall strength of the women's movement in Barbados and how we can continue to coordinate ourselves and be strong in the work that we're doing. So this is the first cohort of others to come. So I think the best thing would be to follow OSS on Facebook and social media, so that when we make the calls, people know that the calls are out. And let me just say, Pearson, as well, that an advocate can be a man or a woman. Huh? It's not a gender-specific rule.
That's great to hear. The trainers will include Dr. herself, Dr. Marsha Hines, Lisa Johnson and Chris Barry, Dr. Yvonne Weeks, and Dr. Gabrielle Hossein. And this training will comprise 22 hours, and it's not necessarily spread over 22 days, but it's spread over 22 hours, so that at the end of those 22 hours, you have a full day of training for real in many aspects as well. Can you talk us very briefly through some of the subject areas in those 22 hours that you'll be attempting to address?
Well, now that we have Dr. Hossein here, I'm going to talk about the movement building. Well, I'm really going to ask her to talk about it because I think it's an important part of where we are historically in the women's movement in the Caribbean.
So thanks for that, Marcia and Pearson. We are, looking not only at what does it mean to be an advocate, that is to know what happens when you are dealing with those in our society and women who are experiencing violence, but also what does it mean to advocate for an end to violence against women and girls, and indeed an end to violence in our families, an end to violence in our societies. And advocacy skills, I mean, the Caribbean and the Caribbean women's movement have a long history of incredibly effective advocacy. We've seen that in legislative change. We've seen that even in the fact that these are discussions that we are having openly and in public and across women and men now. But advocacy skills are a specific set of strategies. And in my own experience, I have found that those who are working in violence are empowered by not just providing service, but in understanding, the larger language and the larger ways that social norm change can be created. And those have to do with what does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean to make decisions? What does it mean to assess, to do a situational analysis, to assess what's working and what's not working? What does it mean, for example, to look at the intersectionality of different issues and different identities of people who are experiencing those issues? So when you're teaching or empowering people or helping them to think about what it means to be part of strong movements, you are really drawing on their vision, first of all, for a different world. All of us imagine a Caribbean different from how it is now. As much as we love the region, we have a vision for change. And all of us understand that it isn't just about a vision, it's about how we move as a collectivity. We caucus, we bring our strength in numbers, and we also allow for the diversity of voices. And so when we do advocacy training, and we do movement building training, it is to build on a long history that we've learned from women in the Caribbean, and also to emphasize those key skills so that advocates can go on media, as well as lobby parliament, as well as write letters to the editor, as well as understand much about social change strategies.
Well, a lot of this will be captured in the workshops, which start on Friday the 15th. And Dr. Hines and Dr. Hossein, I've got to leave it there because I'm out of time now. But if anyone needs to know more, you're welcome. But Dr. Hines, quickly, just tell us quickly where we can register and how we can get more information quickly.
So the best thing, like I said, is for individuals to reach out to us on our social media, oss.246, that's Instagram and Facebook. And our email is operationsafespace.bb@gmail.com.
All right. We're going to post this on our social media page as well, all of this, plus the whole calendar of days and times and durations and what as well, so that folks watching today, you remember, go to our Morning Barbados Facebook page. You can see it there as well, or OSS, what's it?
OSS.246,
gotcha.
operationsafespace.bb@gmail.com.
See, all that is going on our Facebook page. Thank you, Dr. Marcia Hayes, Dr. Hossein as well. Thank you so much for joining with us. And I hope that a number of people come forward to be advocates in the change that we're seeking to have as well. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Morning Barbados will continue right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
14 minutes now to go to 7 o'clock on the 14th, which is tomorrow, World Sight Day. Love your eyes. And joining us to talk a little bit more about that, plus the upcoming lecture, virtual public lecture on Friday, is Dr. Dawn Grosvenor, who's a UWI lecturer and ophthalmologist and a glaucoma specialist as well. Dr. Grosvenor, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Good to see you yet again. World Sight Day is tomorrow. What are the evidences of What are some of the conditions that are mostly presented in Barbados? What are the statistics saying?
World Sight Day officially is tomorrow, but every day is Sight Day for those of us who work in eye care.
Yes.
And that's because we deal with those very common conditions that you mentioned. I'm a glaucoma specialist, so I deal with glaucoma, which is actually the most common cause of irreversible blindness in Barbados and worldwide. So that is of prime importance here. And we find that populations of African descent often have a very high prevalence of glaucoma, as we do in Barbados. People have heard me say this time and time again. So glaucoma is one of the very common ones. But we hear so much about the NCDs, and they affect the eyes significantly. Diabetic eye disease is also a major cause of vision impairment, and hypertension can also affect the eyes significantly. A combination of hypertension and high cholesterol, the effect it has on the blood vessels, can affect the retina of the eye as well. So those are some of the very common things we see. And as you can imagine, in the pandemic, we're hearing so much about the challenges of managing NCDs that even I, as the glaucoma specialist, I'm seeing some persons with consequences of those things as well.
There's some things we can do, and there's some things with genetics we can't change. So obviously, it's in your genetic makeup. But when it comes to non-communicable diseases, there are some things that we can do to mitigate against. Can you give us a sense of what the statistics are saying in terms of the number of younger people presenting with eye challenges?
With eye challenges. That's a very important issue, Pearson. And, I work in glaucoma, and we're seeing persons presenting at a younger and younger age. Traditionally people thought of glaucoma as an old person's disease.
Yes.
And you don't need to get checked for it until you're over 65. And that is a messaging that you hear in, up north in other populations. But in our population where it is so common, we actually recommend that persons get an eye test from the time they're an adult, from age 21. Because the thing about glaucoma is that it can run in families. And as it comes down through the generations, we see from the evidence that it presents 10 years earlier in each generation. So that if great-grandparents had it at 60, then the grandparents might present at 50, your parents then will present at 40, and you might start to develop glaucoma at 30. But it's a silent disease, so it has no signs or symptoms, and you won't know you're developing a problem really until you get checked for it. The same goes to a great extent for things like diabetic eye disease as well, because you might know that you have diabetes, but it's very important for persons with diabetes to get their eyes checked at least annually, because those issues can be coming along and persons might not know because you won't feel anything or you won't see any differently initially. By the time you notice a problem, it might be too late.
Oftentimes when we think we're going to the ophthalmologist or the eye specialist, we're thinking, I don't want any glasses, I don't want to wear glasses, and so you're expecting such a diagnosis, but you're saying no, it's part of the preventative methods as well, where the earlier you're screened, the earlier you can intervene to prevent any onset of any kind of eye decay, really vision decay.
Absolutely. We say prevention is better than cure, and knowledge is power, right?
Right.
And the earlier that people find out about these things, then the better they can intervene to prevent some of the consequences. There's some things you can't prevent altogether, like glaucoma. We can't stop that from happening, but we can stop people from losing their vision because of glaucoma. There's no reason why, if you have glaucoma, or even if you have one of these other eye problems, that you need to go blind. In this day and age, we have so much available. But it really starts with knowledge, and
Yes.
the awareness message is important, because I know, sometimes we meet people who say, but I didn't even know this was something I needed to get checked for. So we really have to get that message out there that when people think about their checks for diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol. We're talking about mammography this month and breast screening, prostate screening we talk about for the men. We have to include eye screening and comprehensive eye checks.
You're absolutely. I know, because I have to visit my ophthalmologist ever so often to just make sure that I stay all right, you know. And I'll tell you my story, because I remember sitting there in the office one day and thinking, but why can't I see the clock? Someone else can. And all the while I'm just thinking that the clock is too far away. That's all it was. It was just too far away. Not realizing that my vision was waning. And it's only then in being checked that I recognized I would have needed the glasses to help augment my ability to see. But ever since then, it's been check to avoid, because the evidence, the incidence of glaucoma is in my genetics as well. So prevention is absolutely better than cure, but you know, it's part of the whole methods of dealing with our eye care in the island. So in this public lecture on Friday, it's going to be done virtually. And I'm sure you're going to be discussing with all of us then some of the treatment options as well, so that Barbadians can rest assured that the skill sets that rest on this island, that we can deal with this.
Absolutely. Now, I see that you're showing the World Glaucoma Association lecture, and I'm going to plug that one first, because this is a unique opportunity for our patients, loved ones, anybody who's interested in learning more about glaucoma and eye care to access some experts in the international community. Tomorrow, and this is why I'm not doing my lecture tomorrow, because this international lecture is going to be huge. The World Glaucoma Association is streaming this lecture at different times of the day. It will be at 6, our prime time tomorrow will be at 6 p.m. On the WGA website, WGA.1, I believe it is. And they're talking about lifestyle and glaucoma. And that is one of the big questions that I get all the time. And particularly now with the pandemic, as people are not getting out as much, everybody wants to know, what can I do? You know, what can I do to help better manage my glaucoma? Yes. And there's a whole raft of international experts tomorrow that will be presenting on those options. Then I will come in on Friday evening to do my virtual lecture at 6 p.m. And I'll talk about some keys to maintaining good vision for life. Because like I said, just because you have a diagnosis like glaucoma doesn't mean you have to lose your vision. It is possible to maintain good vision for life. And we're going to talk about some of those things. And I hope it will be very interactive, because yes, I will share some of my expertise and experiences, but it's really a good opportunity to learn from each other, to hear what issues people are having, to answer those questions. For me, I always enjoy hearing the unique questions that people have. And, you know, there are thousands of people in Barbados living with glaucoma, thousands of family members supporting them. And, you know, a problem that one person has and solved could help another person who's having the same issue. So it's a great opportunity to learn from me and for me to learn from others as well.
So it's going to be interactive there indeed. So folks, again, all of this information will be posted on our Facebook page, Mornin Barbados on Facebook. Like the page, you can see it right there, all that information. And I encourage you to join Dr. Grosvenor on Friday at 6 in the evening and engage, so we can all learn from each other and manage our sight, because we got to love our eyes. The only two we have, just love our eyes indeed. Dr. Grosvenor, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and best of luck with this going forward.
Thank you very much. And people can also get our information on the Barbados Glaucoma Week Instagram and Facebook pages.
Barbados Glaucoma Week Instagram and Facebook pages. Thank you so much. All right, we're just about 6 minutes to go to the hour of 7 o'clock. Now, to this harrowing story. And to tell that story, we want to welcome one and only Miss Wilma Turton. Wilma, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. How are you?
I'm well. Good to see that you are alive. Tell me what happened. When did this thing happen and what happened?
Well, it happened on Friday last. And it's still giving me goosebumps.
So what happened?
I went around the roundabout and unfortunately took the wrong exit and came face to face on a one-way street with a great big truck and an angry driver. Well, of course, I was wearing sunglasses and mask and what have you. But I could see his hands going, you know?
Yes.
And not a place to turn around. So I drove a little closer and I rolled the window down. apologized profusely and explained my situation.
So
to my
tell me,
surprise.
no, hold on. Tell me what with your emotions when you saw the truck coming at you and recognized, oh my goodness, I'm on the wrong road.
Yes.
Tell me what went through your
Why
mind.
is this coming at me? My Lord, I am in the wrong road and going in the wrong direction. I was all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
My
But at least,
heart
yes.
might have left its position.
But at least you were conscious enough to stay in control of your vehicle and to bring it to a calm stop. And so when you interacted
And
with
I tell
him,
you, that's only divine intervention.
thank God for that indeed. So when you interacted with him, what did he say? What did he do?
I expected him to bark at me, but he was so gentle, such compassion. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time and I don't know what to do. He said, all right, I'm going to help you.
And help you he did.
That. He did. He stopped the traffic behind him because it was a 2-lane street. So it meant that traffic could be just flying past, you know. And he directed me how to back up safely, when to turn. And as I turned, I tooted the horn, he tooted his, and we went our separate ways. It's only then that I realized I did not even get the chance to say a prayer. I did not say thank you. And this is why I'm here this morning, because I really hoping that he would maybe hear this and recognize what he had done. Because I'm pretty certain he had no idea that he saved my life.
Wow. I'm hoping that he recognizes you as well, recognizes the story.
He couldn't.
And
he couldn't because
he might have.
This is what I looked like. I would have been wearing my mask. And all of that.
Good. So now
what he would have seen.
I want him to look now. See this. If he remembers this look, you know, sir, give us a call here at Morning Barbados. We'd love to hear from your side of the story as well. And to say a big thank you. You are truly quite an angel, saving Wilma Turton's life on the day she took the wrong turn. So now, Wilma, having lived that experience and lived to tell the tale, what is it that you now feel that you will want to do a whole lot differently?
Well, I am hoping that this message would help people to recognize that little kind acts go a very long way. And especially in this COVID environment, so many people are uptight and wish they had at least a listening ear. They don't necessarily want anybody to solve problems, but to hear them out, to recognize that they're people too. And he was so compassionate, so kind. He has no clue who I am, and I have no idea who he is. If I saw him now, I would not recognize him because he too was wearing a mask.
So where did this happen? Let's see if we could pinpoint it.
This happened at Warren, on the inside of Warren. There are a number of little roundabouts.
Oh, okay. So you're a little confused.
Well, I would think so.
Well, I'm laughing, right? Because I'm happy you're alive.
God.
Indeed, I am too for you. You know, and forgive me if I'm smiling and laughing because it is now, after the fact, we can look at it and be, you know, address it a little lightly. But at the time, it must have been very harrowing. I'm so glad you're alive to tell the tale. I hope one day
he shouted at me, I think I would have lost it.
Had he shouted?
Because I was beating up on myself for doing that. And then had he done what probably would have been the natural thing, I might have lost my composure and not be able to control the vehicle. A whole lot of things could have happened.
Yes.
I am just so thankful that God sent an angel. And when you looked at this man, Pearson, you would not have expected a gentle voice, a pleasant word, none of those things.
I'm so glad you shared. I'm so glad you shared it because oftentimes the male in our community get the bad end of the stick. And I'm so glad that you're able to describe him in the way that you'll be able to do so, Wilma. But thank God you're alive to tell the tale. And I want to thank you for joining us this morning to share that cautionary tale with us as well. So thank you so much, Wilma. And God bless you going forward.
You are so welcome.
You too.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
You too. Thanks. Wilma wishes all of us a good day. And sir, Matt, whoever you are, please contact us here at Morning Barbados. We want to share your end of the story as well. We're looking forward to hearing from you, sir, with a big thank you and a big smile on my face. We're taking a break here. We're coming back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're 2 minutes after 7. Let's take in the news now. Wendy Burke is here with it. Wendy.
Barbados has a new record in its daily number of COVID-19 cases, 342. The new positive cases were detected among the 2,781 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory on Monday. These new cases included 164 males and 178 females. Of these, 82 people are under the age of 18. There are now 537 individuals in isolation facilities and 2,284 in home isolation. In terms of vaccinations, 142,623 people have received first doses, while a total of 113,022 are fully vaccinated. Police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the discovery of a body. It was around 11 a.m. yesterday that residents of Kendall Hill B, Christchurch, reported the scent of a pungent odor in an open area. It was there that the decomposing body was discovered. Up to news time, the identity of the deceased was not known. The Food and Agricultural Organization has done a survey on Barbados's food imports and realized that 64% of them are processed and create a huge public health burden. Sub-Regional Coordinator for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Dr. Renata Clark, says food consumption and waste is a matter of individual responsibility, and we're now trying to fix the problem of non-communicable diseases.
The theme for World Food Day, it's transforming agri-food systems for better production, better nutrition, better environments, and better lives. And here, it's not some remote responsibility that somebody else, somewhere else needs to deal with. For every single person, their food choices are a powerful contribution to transformation of agri-food systems. We did a study here in a few countries of the Caribbean looking at food imports. And it shows that about 64% of Barbados's food imports are highly processed or with high levels of salt or sugar. At a time when non-communicable diseases are a huge public health burden. So already our food choices enable us to be more healthy, enable the country, instead of spending money to fix problems that should have been avoided, and spending money on things that can make the economy stronger, we're fixing problems that should never have been created. This is individual choice. Individual choice also from the point of view of food waste. SDG 12 is about sustainable consumption and production, and one of the targets is about food waste. Here again, and we're talking about food waste at the level of retail and the level of consumers. And the global target is that we can halve food waste by 2030. This is in our power, you, me, and every single listener.
That's it for news. It's now back to Pearson and Morning Barbados.
Thank you, Wendy. We're 6 minutes after 7, a break, and when we come back, much more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 7 past 7. Are you ready for this? Time for you to give me a call on 228-5562 or 228-5563, because look at that. It's time for today's Crumbs question of the day. 228-5562 or 63. The question is, who was Barbados' first native Governor General? Who was Barbados' first native Governor General? 228-5562 or 228-5563, history buffs. I'm not so sure if they teach this in schools anymore, but I remember us having then to go through all of this so you know exactly who was who in what time period and so forth. So if you remember, give me a call, 228-5562 or 228-5563. Let's take this call. Good morning to you. Hello.
Good morning, Pearson.
Hi, how are you doing?
Not bad. Are you?
Oh, fun. I'm doing well, thank you for asking. What parish are you watching from?
St. Michael.
Okay, what's your answer for me?
Sir John Stowe.
Sticking with that answer?
Yes, please.
Let it go, you're wrong.
Oh,
thanks, sir. yeah. Thank you for trying. 228-5562 or 228-5563. Who was Barbados' first native Governor General? 228-5562, 228-5563. Those are the only numbers to call. So call me now and let me know. But also let me know which parish you're watching us from. We're keeping track. So do we have someone there? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, if you speak a little louder, maybe, or they help me in the back as well. So tell me, what parish are you watching from?
Watching from St. Michael.
St. Michael, what's your answer?
Sir Winston Scott.
Say it again.
Sir Winston Scott.
Positive about that?
Yes.
What makes you so positive about that?
I think I remember it from history.
You know, I'm going to tease you down to the hilt right now. So you think you remember it from history?
Yes.
At primary or secondary school?
I think from primary.
You think it's at primary? You think it's Sir Winston Scott?
Yes.
I know. I don't know what to say to you. I really don't know what to say to you. What do you think I should say to you?
Say something like yes.
You have us in a conundrum right now, ma'am. So what should I say to you?
You should say yes to me.
That's what you would want me to say to you?
Yes, please.
You can't tell me what to say to you. Yes. So what part of St. Michael are you watching from?
Codrington, St. Michael.
Codrington?
Yes.
Oh, that's up near to the National Stadium.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, ma'am, at Codgerton St. Michael, you're right. Sir Arlie Winston Scott is indeed the first native Governor General of Barbados. Spot on. Well done to you. The team applauds you loudly. We're happy for you. So you stay right there on the phone and we'll take some other information from you. So today you are today's winner of our Crumbs question of the day. Answering correctly, Sir Arlie Winston Scott, the first native Governor General of Barbados. All right, we're going to take a break from right here, but don't forget, keep watching because a chance for you to spot that pink ribbon is coming up. You better believe it. Back after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So now we're 12 minutes after 7 o'clock. I have my book in my hand. Do you have your book in your hand? This book, The Manager's First Aid Kit. We're looking at a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges. This is a great book to have. And it's a great book to have not just for managers, supervisors, all of you in some way who have to deal with people and processes, but it's also a great book for you, the individual as well, a parent, a caregiver, someone in that position as well. You can learn so much from this. Now, last week we took some time looking at emotional intelligence with the words success in the knowledge economy comes to those who know themselves, their strengths, their values, and how they best perform. So all week last week in our first chapter, we looked a little bit at self-awareness. Yes, self-awareness, self-management, and also social awareness. And those are 3 points in which I hope you took some time to think it through. Assess yourself. Assess how you manage yourself. And then what do people say about you? What is your awareness of how you're perceived by others as well? All of those things are so critical. Joining us this morning, the lady of the day, our coach, our talent development specialist, master trainer, change practitioner, and the author of the book, Manager's First Aid Kit, a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, Joan Underwood. Joan, good morning to you.
And good morning to you as well, Pearson. It's good to be with you again this week.
Oh, I am beaming brightly because I'm happy again to be with you today as well. So much we could reflect on. I hope that people took the time to get the book, one, and to spend time in reflection as well on their self-awareness, their own management of self, and also their social awareness. But in all of this, and I like the way you tagged the next chapter, which looks at emotional agility, you say, effective leaders are mindful of their inner experience, but are not caught up in them. And so today we're looking at how we manage our thoughts and our emotions. How agile are we at being able to come to the right conclusion, or the best conclusion, right?
And the best course of action.
Correct. So where do we start in breaking this down so that we understand better our emotions and how we manage those thoughts and the processes so we come to the best course of action?
Okay. So the first paradigm that I'd like to emphasize is that emotions provide information, not directions. So for example, if I'm coming on with you this morning and I'm checking on my emotions and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a bit anxious. No, that anxiety doesn't direct and determine how I show up when I engage you, but I can get information from it. So I approach the exploration of the emotions with curiosity. Why
Yes.
exactly are you feeling anxious? Well, because this is so important and I really do want to do a good job. And so the anxiety is around the uncertainty and whether or not I'm going to show up in the best possible way. Now, that's not instructions for me to come and be shaking, but rather I then say to myself, okay, based on your value system and what you want to accomplish, who do you need to be during this interview? How do you need to behave during this interview so that you do give a good representation? So again, emotions give us information, not directions. Same thing with anger. All right. So someone says or does something to you and you get angry about it. No, that anger can be communicating that you're hurt, that you're upset, that you're offended. It can be communicating so many things, but you do not have to let it dictate how you respond. And notice I say respond, because that's what emotional agility is about. A response as opposed to a reaction.
Yes.
And what's the difference? Choice.
You talk a lot in the book about the amygdala hijack, you know,
Yes.
and it's so true, and that's where you're going to the emotion and the response and the reaction as well, because oftentimes situations will occur, but we cannot let those situations or those emotions hijack the outcome, hijack our reaction, hijack our response as well. And so part of it is knowing and being certain what it is, but also being responsible enough and responsive enough to say, I now can actually take control of myself and know better how to respond so I have a better outcome and not let the hijack take control of us.
Exactly. And let's open up that discussion about the hijack. So people may have heard of the fight or flight reaction that we have. And this goes back to ancient times when, you know, we were hanging out with the animals and to protect ourselves. So if we saw someone who had us in their food chain, we knew that, listen, it's time to get out of here. So I need to flee. No, this didn't have to be a thought out process. It happened instinctually.
Yes.
Okay, so our primitive brain did that to ensure that we were able to survive. Now, you know, things have evolved since then. We're not in the physical danger, but for our emotions, we feel as if we're in danger. So our body reacts in the same way. I want to get away from this stimulus, from this threat. So I can either run away or I can fight it, or sometimes we even freeze because, you know, we get so afraid that we can't do anything. What we're saying is that we need to introduce not our primitive brain, but our thinking brain into the occasion, so that instead of just having that triggered response, that hijacked response, we can have a reasoned response and decide how we show up in the given context.
And I'm glad you said it in that way, because oftentimes there are parents who are watching who have a teenager, be it the boy or the girl, who will challenge them. And so your reaction sometimes is to flare up or fight back. I am the boss in here. You will either do as I say or you will leave. Or you can cower into the corner and say, all right, you're bigger than me. I am not going to fight you now. And therefore they now assume control over the situation. So your whole emotions are offset, literally, whether it is to fight or to fly away from. And that's where you're saying, no, we have to use our minds now. We have to use that emotional intelligence, that emotional agility to be able to respond in situations like that. And I use that example because I really want this book to be applied not just to the workplace, but to the home. The home is also an environment where this book works. This book works. I know you see the big black word there, managers, and you think that's in the office. Your office is also sometimes at home. How do you manage yourself in that home environment? And so let's hit that part of the brain that helps us to be able to navigate through this. And you go on then to share with us 4 steps to emotional agility. Let's walk through those with everybody today.
All right, so since you have the book in front of you,
yes,
give me the first step. Yes.
The first step you say here is to notice when you've been hooked or triggered by your thoughts and feelings. To notice it when that happens. And that calls for a little bit of emotional maturity.
Exactly, because some persons are not sufficiently self-aware to be able to identify their feelings as they experience them. Interestingly, Pearson, after we got off air last week, I mean, within a few minutes of that, I got a phone call from a gentleman, and he only gave me his first name, so nobody can trace him. So he identified himself as Errol, and he shared with me an experience where he had been hijacked. He worked in the hospitality sector, and there was a visitor. Unfortunately, racist people get passports and they travel too.
Yes.
And sometimes they end up on our shores. And there was an incident where the gentleman was quite disrespectful and, in fact, assaulted him, kicked him. Okay. And so he got triggered. And so he wanted to relay the story to me and to find out if I thought he was wrong because he reciprocated and gave the tourist back exactly what he had meted out himself. Right? So here's the thing. I said, I can't judge whether you were right or wrong because that's a decision for you to make based on your value system. The thing is, did you make a conscious decision to do it, or were you hijacked and merely reacted and then regretted it afterwards? So the first thing is identify emotion that you're experiencing. So that's step one. Step two,
label your thoughts and emotions. Give label to them, your thoughts and emotions. How do we do that?
All right. So something happens, and the way I'm describing it, it may sound as if it takes a long time to happen. But as you practice this, it becomes something that happens very quickly. But when you start out, it will take you a moment to actually do it. So there is this trigger event. Take the time to say, what am I feeling right now? Am I offended? Am I hurt? Am I aggravated? Am I whatever it is? Put a name on it, so that you that helps with the self-awareness.
And helps with the response, because if my response, my label is I'm angry right now, it might very well mean that I need to calm down before I respond. If I'm not angry right now, I might very well be able now to clearly identify my path of action and to be able now to begin sooner rather than later. So
absolutely,
I got you. I'm with you. I hope everybody's following along. Number 3, it says here, accept your thoughts and emotions by acknowledging them and exploring them from a position of curiosity.
Okay. Again, they're not directions, they're information. And what do you do? I mean, in your line of work, what do you do when you get information? You analyze it.
Yes.
Not so.
Yes.
Okay. So what is this telling me? All right. So be curious about the emotions. See what it's seeking to communicate to you coming from within you. Okay. So we haven't acted yet. All of this is internal work.
Right.
Then comes the next step.
Act on your values. Act on your values. Now, mind you, everyone's value system is not the same.
Yes. Which is why when Errol asked me that question, I declined to give an answer because his value system may be quite different.
Yes.
So if, for example, his value system, one of his core values is fairness, right? Then he may say, well, you kick me, I have to kick you back. That's only fair. So if my value system is, for example, do unto others as you would have done unto you. I don't want anybody to kick me, so I'm not going to go around kicking anyone, right? And I'm not judging, I'm saying make your decision based on your value system.
I think also you have to be mindful of the consequences, because if you haven't considered the consequences, then you're going to find yourself in a roller coaster, constantly having to react. Not respond, react. And that's the whole point here. We're saying know the difference between reacting and how to respond and responding. And this chapter puts us clearly into that to awaken our consciousness, awaken our emotional spaces so that we're far more agile in defining how we feel, labeling how we feel, acknowledging what it is that we feel, and then using our value system to respond, understanding that there is going to be an equal reaction to how we respond. So know the consequences, measure them very carefully, and plan ahead and be prepared to deal with the situation as well. This is a lot in this chapter.
I just want to add one thing in terms of reaction versus response.
Yes.
Because you may choose to do the same thing that you would have done if you just did.
Yes.
What's the difference? It's a conscious decision that you have made.
Yes.
And so, as you say, you've weighed the consequences and you've decided, no, I'm going to do this, and I will deal with whatever comes afterwards.
This is such a rich chapter, ladies and gentlemen. It is so powerful. Of course, every chapter always ends with a moment of self-reflection, how we can become emotionally agile, and how emotionally agile are we? And you will get it at the end of the chapter. Now, next week, God's Spare Life, I want to look at cultivating those winning habits as well. You know, this is such a journey, folks. I want to encourage you. Remember, you can order your book. You can go to Day's Bookstore to pick up a copy of the book, purchase it. It's right there on your screen. That's the book. Look for it. It looks just like that. Manager's First Aid Kit, a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges by Joan Underwood. Or you can go to the website utdsinc.com. utdsinc.com. It's also available on Amazon. If you're anywhere across the world, you can order your book via Amazon and it will be delivered to you. And Joan, I can't wait for where else we go in this journey as we continue to pull from our manager's toolkit to become far more and more effective managers of self, managers of people, processes, and the like as well. Thank you so much again.
Thank you as well. I'll see you next week.
God's Spare Life, you indeed. Morning Barbados comes right back after this break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Look everybody, it's time for you to spot the pink ribbon. Where is the pink ribbon today? Now I hope you have your sheet of paper ready. We have Monday and Tuesday. Today is Wednesday, October the 13th. Wednesday, October the 13th. Write that down. Today's date. Got your pen and paper? Good? We good? We cool? Here comes the location I need you to identify today. Today's landmark. Landmark number 3. Look at that. Now I could describe that roof, but I shall not, because if I do, I'll probably give it away. So where in Barbados is this? That solitary window. Isn't that a beautiful, look, isn't that a beautiful roof? Beautiful indeed. So where's this? Where exactly is this? This is our landmark number 3 for today, Wednesday, the 13th of October. Where is this? And look at the pink ribbon is right there by it. So where is this? I tell you, I wish you well. but the Jacobean land style there is beautiful. And there are very few of them. So just think of it very carefully. Look at it carefully. Analyze, analyze, analyze. Where do you think that is? Where do you think that is? That's landmark number 3. Write it down next to today's date, which is Wednesday, October the 13th. And you would have had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have 2 more days to go, 2 more slots to fill in, Thursday and Friday. And at the end of the week and until the end of the month, you have an opportunity to send all 5 landmarks in an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Remember to include your name and your contact details. We need to be able to find you. So just send all 5 landmarks by email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. You have until October 9th to get your entries in, and then you will become a grand winner because you're winning some fantastic things. We want to say a big thank you this morning and every time to these folks here. We want to say thanks to Abeds, the partners in this, Stansfeld Scott, Crane Beach Hotel, Emerald City and Carlton and Day One Supermarkets, and Bougainvillea Beach Hotel. Thank you so very much, and again we invite you to join us again for landmark number 4 when we come around again to ask the question, where is the pink ribbon, brought to you in association with the Breast Cancer Awareness Month and the breast screening program. So work it out and good luck to you. All right, it's now time for us to turn our attention to Dr. John Barker, our obstetrician and gynecologist, who joins us this morning as we look at menopause. Good morning to you, sir.
Hi, good morning, Pearson. How are you?
Yeah,
Morning,
I'm
everyone.
well, I'm well. Good to see you. They say the men all pause when you walk into the room. You remember that song? You should be old enough to remember that song. You remember?
I still young.
Fair enough. But we are at menopause now, and it's a time of life a lot of ladies embrace because it means something. So what is menopause, and why does it happen at that stage?
Right. Menopause, essentially, the average age is around 51 years. And it is essentially when the periods stop for more than a year. Now, usually the person is not on any contraception and they're over 45 years of age. Now, on the other hand, sometimes you can get women less than 40 having what we call premature ovarian failure. So they're going to a premature menopause. But before the menopause, you would get a perimenopause, whereby you have irregular periods and what we call vasomotor symptoms, which would be like sweating and hot flashes. Now, the perimenopause, however, sometimes can be associated with abnormalities in the lining of the womb. So if you are in the perimenopause, which would be, you're getting your hot flashes and you're sweating, and irregular periods. If, however, these periods are very heavy, then we would advise you to see your gynecologist because sometimes you might have to sample the lining of the womb. But essentially, the menopause is the cessation of the periods, which is a stoppage for at least a year in most people over 45.
Wouldn't she be a little bit concerned, the woman? You know, you miss one period. You miss 2 periods, and then, you know, it can cause a bit of discomfort and uncertainty as to what's going on here.
Yes.
Because all the while, suddenly your routine has changed.
Yes, because your ovaries are failing. So essentially what happens is that you have this hormone called FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone, and that is what's trying to drive the ovaries. So you get elevated levels of this hormone. And then once the ovaries are failing, then that's where you get the missed periods. So the period can come once, and then you miss 3 months, and then it comes back again, and it goes like that off and on like that until they finally stop.
So don't diagnose yourself. Go to your doctor, go to your obstetrician, gynecologist,
Yes,
and find out a little bit more, because it's only at that stage that you can actually term it menopause and not to be something else.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
What else could it have been if it's not menopause, though?
Right. If the patient, for argument's sake, is not getting any periods, we have to determine if there is another cause. So sometimes you can have small, what we call microtumors in the brain, which produce prolactin, and these can actually cause the irregular periods. So once you come and we get the history, we would then have to determine if it is perimenopause, if you're going into the menopause, or if it's due to another cause. Sometimes if you're on contraception, this can skew things because even if you come off the contraception, sometimes you might not get a period for 6 months, but that would be due to the contraception. So there are many other causes for women not having the period, especially between the ages of 40 and 45. So that's why you need to see a gynecologist.
The one outward sign we see is the flashes, the sweating.
Yes.
We see that. What's the remedy for that so that she doesn't have to go through that level of discomfort?
Yes, that is one of I would say the treasures of menopause. My first experience was in England. I mean, you hear about these things, but you have to understand that our population is dark skinned, so we don't actually see the hot flashes. But when I was in England, I was in theater and I saw this Caucasian lady. She was white. And she turned like a lobster, you know, like when they cook a lobster. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? So then when I asked her what's happening, she said, well, John, that's a hot flash. Don't you know?
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. I mean, like you hear about it, but to actually see it is like, whoa.
Wow.
But in terms of the flashes, we can do hormonal or non-hormonal treatment. So the non-hormonal would be like you would go on like diet, exercise. So when you're fit and healthy in terms of your exercise tolerance and stuff, you're able to cope better with the hot flashes and avoidance of like caffeine and smoking. If, however, that's not acceptable, then you can start on hormone replacement therapy. Now, the hormone replacement therapy should only be given for the shortest term possible, and that usually should be no more than 5 years. And even if you start it, you should finish it from around 51. This is because once you start HRT, sometimes you have risk and benefits for starting patients on HRT. So you have to go through the risk and you have to go through the benefits. The benefits in this case would be the decrease of what we call the vasomotor symptoms, which would be like the hot flashes and the sweating. However, sometimes you can use alternative treatments, which should be like John Hart's wart and stuff, or black hash. But you have to counsel these patients to tell them, well, you don't know the formulation of the herbal remedies and stuff, so you cannot actually predict if this will help the symptoms or not.
So ideally, menopause is just a process, it's just a time of life. It's not a quote unquote death sentence to your health or anything like that.
No.
Right. So it's just a time of and does it eventually go away? How long does it take before normal life resumes?
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes it can take a few months, sometimes it can take years to resolve. So usually if we start you on therapy, you can actually decrease it to see if the symptoms go away. And usually after 2 years, then you would think about decreasing the medication if the person is on hormone replacement therapy.
Sir, we have to leave it there. But I can well imagine, what ladies go through. The good thing is, though, folks, there's a solution. You can contact your obstetrician. Look at him, obstetrician, gynecologist. He can talk you through this and bring you some options. You have all your options. And of course, there's a psychological side to it and a whole host of things that will be addressed when you take some action. So don't sit suffering heat. Take an action. Don't be alarmed if you missed a couple periods. You just talk to your obstetrician, your gynecologist, and let's get to the bottom of it and see how we can help you be better and have a more comfortable life. Dr. John Barker, thank you as always, my friend, for joining us. And
Thank you.
I'm actually enjoying the tutorials and sessions with you. Thank you.
No problem. I'll be here for a while.
Amen. God's real life indeed. Thank you so much. Dr. John
Okay, have a
Barker,
good day.
obstetrician, you too, gynecologist. We're coming back with more on Morning Barbados right after this.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
19 minutes now to go to 8 o'clock. I want to introduce you now to this very competent, intelligent, careful, all of those other superlatives I could find, young lady. Her name is Brittany Seeley, and she is actually the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Work Consultancy, Inc. Brittany, good morning to you.
Good morning. Hi, Pearson. How are you doing?
I'm doing well today. How do you do?
I'm good, thanks.
But folks, there's a lot we can learn from Brittany, and there's a lot we can get from Work Consultancy Inc. as well. The support is tremendous. And so today, on this Wednesday, we want to look at career changes. There are a lot of people who sit and suffer in silence. And I know in this new generation, they're not putting up with a job forevermore, one job. They're going different places, they're trying different things. But there's a generation that says, I've got the job, I'll stay in this job until I retire. And not even once consider changing careers, but they sit in silence and they suffer. So what do we say to those people today?
Well, I'm actually bringing you some midweek reminders, and they're just two of them, but I think that they're extremely important because, like you mentioned, there are the older generation who might have suffered through jobs, or there are persons right now who are just genuinely unhappy in their jobs. And so I really want to direct the conversation towards them this morning. So the first reminder is, it is not okay to be constantly unhappy in your job. It is not okay. And I really, really need you to understand that, because you don't have to be going to work every day dragging it on. I mean, if you are celebrating the weekend and then when Sunday hits, your mood just plummets, that is an issue. And I really need persons to know that it is not normal and that there are alternative solutions. So they can do so by discovering their happy meter. So like I mentioned, it's, some days are better than others. Maybe when you assignments, you love interacting with others when you're in the office versus when you might be working from home, and so you don't like to be isolated, so your mood drops a little bit. Sure, that's fine. Maybe you would have some stressful days at the office here and there, but you're still passionate about the job, you love what you're doing. That is also great. However, if you are not enjoying the position, if every time the manager or your supervisor has to say something to you, if every time you step into the office, you are wondering what is going on, it's Wednesday, and you are just counting down the days to the weekend, that's an issue.
What do you say to the person who, as soon as they land on work premises, they want to go home?
Maybe you might want to consider changing jobs. So you want to consider that, or you want to consider looking at yourself. And that's actually my third point, because sometimes the cause may be the office, it may be the job that you're in, or it may actually be you. So how do you evaluate that? Is it that I am more comfortable working at home, and so I prefer to do that, I'm more productive that way, but I love the job that I'm in? Or is it that I really and truly just don't like my job? And it might be the persons around me, micromanagement, it might be the institution. So really and truly, persons need to decipher that. And if it is the organization, I need persons to know that they can change jobs. You don't need to be stuck there forever. Persons are constantly changing jobs, not only in Barbados, but all around the world. And I think that even with the onset of the pandemic, persons are realizing that life is short. And so they really and truly don't want to spend the rest of their life miserable, honestly.
There's a fear, because you look through the window and you see that the opportunities are not quite there. You're seeing people going home, you're seeing people unemployed, and you're wondering, then what do? I don't want to be among them. I want to still have some income flowing through. So how do you say to that individual, you can change jobs when outside looks bleak?
That's a great question. But Pearson, from where I sit, we're constantly dealing with clients who are receiving interviews, they're securing new jobs. And so although generally the market is tighter, like opportunities are still out there. You can still change jobs, whether it's remote, whether it's international, and many local companies are still hiring as well. So I don't want persons to think that I need to stay in my job because there's nothing else out there, but you can do it in a very smart way. So the first thing to know is your why. Why should I change jobs? Because you deserve to be happy. We spend a third of our lives approximately working. So why do I want to change jobs? And then you want to get into when. Start planning. Am I going to change jobs in the next couple of months? Am I going to start looking around? I'm going to get my CV started. I'm going to consult companies like ours, Work Consultancy, or other organizations in Barbados. When am I looking to change, looking to send in that resignation? And then how are you going to do it? What's your cushion? I know that there are some people who might be in strenuous environments and they're literally to their wits' end. They can't take it anymore. And so if you have a partner, if you have savings that can at least buffer you for 6 months, that is great. But if you want to tough it out, if you want to get a side hustle in the meantime, or if you already have a side hustle, then that can be your cushion. But you want to know how you're going to do it because you want to be smart. You don't want to be exhausted in a job and then realize that you're also battling mentally because you don't have a stream of income coming in. So these are all things to consider.
You're so right. And the older one gets, the more difficult it becomes for one to make a decision because you balance the risks. You know, here I am in an organization, I've been here for a while and I'm close to pension. Do I give all of that up because I've been dreadfully unhappy? Or do I just take the leap and see where I land as old as I am? Those are considerations that one faces as well in making that decision that yes, you can change careers, yes, you can change jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, Pearson, I mean, we work with clients from the age of like 18 years old. I mean, we've had persons in their late 50s who have worked with us and they were able to secure opportunities, perhaps not a full-time position, maybe a contractual position. So I'm saying if you're unhappy in a job, then be willing to be flexible. Perhaps you may not be in another full-time position because it's more difficult there, but you may want to consider contract, especially if you're like in the accounting and finance field.
You're right. You know, I use the word career just now deliberately because it can also be, the changes, you can change one job into a similar job because you've changed employers, but you can change careers as well. You could be one thing today and a completely different thing tomorrow. I started in banking, and here I am in broadcasting. Yes, there's another B, but still, you know, a completely different field, completely different. And sometimes people get scared because they think this is all I know. Can I do the other thing? And yeah, follow your passion. If your passion leads you there, go with your passion. That passion is what's going to keep you happy and keep you grounded and keep you going. And that's what's most important. But don't be afraid. Don't sit in fear. Don't sit in a state of being unhappy all the time when you know you can contribute so much more and you can do much more. And much more could be calling Work Consultancy Inc. as well, because you'll talk us through this, right?
Yes, absolutely. So if persons need help, then they can always reach out to us. They can book a free consultation, and then we will be happy to walk them through the process and provide them with some options. But again, I just really want to let Barbadians know, because I know some people are really happy in their jobs, but there's so many others, because we deal with them on a day-to-day basis. They're not satisfied. They don't like the environment. They think that there's nothing else out there for them. And I just want to let them know they don't have to suffer in silence, because there are organizations out there like ours to help them get into their new jobs or get into their new careers seamlessly.
Indeed. What a beautiful way to end. Brittany Seeley, Chief Executive Officer and founder of Work Consultancy Inc. Remember, you can find her on social. It's right there, Work Consultancy Inc. And let Brittany help you live a little happier life, you know, through employment. Indeed. Thank you, Brittany. All the best as always.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Morning Barbados will continue right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So 9 minutes now to 8 o'clock. I'll start with this question. Are you a hip-hop DJ, MC, beatboxer, street dancer, or graffiti artist? Well, this one's for you. What is it? What is this one's for you? Well, joining us to talk about a little bit more about this and what it is Alicia Payne-Hurley, who is a cultural officer of dance with the National Cultural Foundation, and Larry Socha, who is the public affairs officer with the U.S. Embassy. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning. Jason. Thanks for having me.
It says this one is for you, but what is this? Alicia, let's start with you. What is it?
This is the Next Level Initiative, the Next Level Hip Hop Exchange. And when we say hip hop, that's why we clarify genre, because we wanted you to understand it's not just about the hip hop dancing, which is the most one of the more popular forms here, but it's also about the entire culture of hip hop. So it's an intensive 2-week workshop that the NCF and the Embassy has come together to put on, along with the Next Level Initiative, which is an initiative of the U.S. Department of State, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and Meridian International Center. So a 2-week training intensive with these masters coming in from the USA into Barbados to work with our hip hop artists.
So let's talk to you, Larry. Tell me a little bit about this, the reason why the U.S. Embassy says, yeah, we'll pull our hands up, we'll work with you on this, and we'll bring in these people to help. What's in it for all of us?
Well, it's another investment by the Embassy of the United States in Barbados, and especially in the creative economy here. I think the creative economy, artists and musicians and dancers have really been hit hard by the pandemic. So the U.S. Embassy has partnered with the NCF to produce this 2-week hip-hop arts residency that's going to run from November 1st through the 12th. And we couldn't be happier than to have the support of the NCF and to bring 4 American hip-hop artist educators to Barbados. Isa Upchurch, who's an expert in dance and also on the faculty of Harvard University and teaches hip-hop classes there. Unlearn the World, who's our MC. Vincent Gray Fonsecas, who's a beat maker, and Jay Musex, who's an aerosol artist. I want to give a shout out to the artists and the aerosol artists out there, because I think this is one of the most exciting parts of the workshop, and that is the mural part of this. I think there's so many different parts of the United States now where you see these different areas of different cities, whether it's all the way out in Honolulu or San Francisco or Miami or New York, you see these bright, colorful murals on the walls. And so part of this workshop will be creating a mural with the NCF, with the artists who are going to participate in this program. And so our call today is to artists out there to register for this program and to apply.
So, Alicia, how can one register? How can one apply to be a part of this program?
Well, all you have to do, so Pearson, I'm looking out for your registration, is to submit.
I am not a hip hopper. I am not a DJ. I don't know what to do with a spray can of paint. So tell me.
Every time I come on, I come at you. I'm waiting for your registration this time. So all you have to do is to submit a video MP4 format. Maximum 2 minutes. You include your name, you include the genre and the workshop you're interested in. Tell us why you're supposed to be a part of this workshop, why choose you, and you submit that video along with some samples of your work, and you submit to me at the NCF. My email address, Alicia Payne-Hurley at ncf.bb on or before tomorrow, October 14th, so you don't have much time.
Right.
So you got to get that video done. So Pearson, as soon as you're finished with Mornin Barbados, get your video done. Okay?
I'm gonna go and change it to my dance clothes and do my video and come out there and show you my moves, and then hopefully I'll be part of the dance class. But if you're interested in beatboxing as an MC, if you're interested also as a graffiti artist and creating beautiful art through the skill of graffiti, you can actually be a part of it. A lot of you who work in the media space as a DJ, whether you're working from home or you're working in a traditional space as well, as a hip-hop DJ, and you want to know more about how to be the better hip-hop DJ, then register for the classes as well. We put up the information again on the screen. Alicia-Payne, that's the email address. Alicia, remind us again. Alicia-Payne-Hurley
at ncf.bb.
And we have until tomorrow to do so, to submit that 2-minute video. The 2-minute video will also include whether I'm a graffiti artist show my work.
Yes, definitely. So you give us some samples of your work, It doesn't have to be a live sample. It can be just a clip, a recorded clip, and you tell us why you should be a part of this workshop.
Larry, when do these workshops begin?
So the workshops begin in November. So it's 2 weeks starting on November 1st. It's in the afternoon, so it'll start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and run until about 4 o'clock. So if you can't, if you're working somewhere and you can't give your full day, it does allow the flexibility to take those afternoons for those 2 weeks and really invest in yourself as an artist, and also also invest in your community and network with other artists who are interested in your same craft.
You know, Alicia, there are people who say, but hip hop is not our traditional thing. Hip hop is not Barbadian. How do you respond to that?
Well, you see, we have so much hip hop happening in Barbados. It may not have been what we would have done or our generation would have done, but it is present, and it's very present in our young artists. And this is also an opportunity to promote cross-cultural creative exchange, and what we may not call hip hop, or for instance, street dance. Street dance in America may be what they consider to be hip hop. Street dance in Barbados is landship. So when we have that exchange and we start to pair our landship with the street dance and dance hall moves, I'm sure that they'll be learning as well as us. So there's always this opportunity to advance, always an opportunity to grow on top of your art. And sometimes we have to meet the youngsters where they're at, and show them how they can combine cultures to create a niche for themselves out there, especially as difficult as it has been in COVID for artists.
So the workshops start on November the 1st. What's the capacity, and how will those workshops be conducted? Where, in what space?
Well, we know that we are operating in a COVID environment, so safety is our utmost importance. Our numbers are very limited. That is why it is very important that you get that submission in. We have a maximum of 15 persons per workshop. We're having the workshop at the NCF plant. We're putting everything in place. Strict COVID protocols will be in place. And so once you get your submissions in, you have that opportunity to be a part of this very exciting process, and your safety will be guaranteed once we can get everything together. And numbers 15 maximum.
15 maximum. So folks, you have until tomorrow to get that deadline, meet that deadline, get your video in, your 2-minute video, to be a part, to meet with the next level team. And it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be skills shared to develop the art of hip hop here on the island, whether you be a dancer, a DJ, an MC, beatboxer, graffiti artist. All of this expertise is coming to our island from November the 1st to the 12th, and within Team Next Level USA, supported by the United States Embassy, it is going to be a great opportunity for all of you artists as well. So thank you, Alicia Payne-Hurley, and thank you, Larry Socha, and I really hope that we are inundated with subscription to the point where we have to do it again very soon. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Pearson.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome indeed. Folks, remember to submit your entries to alicia-payne-hurley@ncf.bb. You have until tomorrow to do so. Well, that's it for today. I want to thank you on behalf of Nadia Foster, our producer, Rowell Ford, our technical director, and Christopher Blemon, our sound engineer. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, be it God's will. Take care now. Until then, bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.